Hello friends, this is Stitchy Witchy Bee. I'm Bee, my pronouns are she, her. Welcome! Today is technically January 3rd, but since I haven't slept yet, we're calling it January 2nd. I have been off work for the last week and a half or so, and that means my body has shifted to its typical nocturnal state of being, whether I want it to or not. That's just kind of how things tend to go for me. Welcome if you are new. Thanks for stopping by, whether you are new or old. There are a lot of options of people to watch for Flosstube, so I really appreciate that you're here with me today. I will probably not have too long of a video this time, but that's only because I'm gearing up to do my full end of year WIP parade or project parade. Hopefully later this week or this weekend. We'll find out. We'll see. I'll touch back on that more at the end of the video, but this is going to be for the latter half of December. Even though I had, again, most of that time off, I didn't do nearly as much stitching as I kind of thought I would. I think in part my brain was just like, no, I just need to completely shut off, and even counting felt like a little bit too much for a bit there. There were some days where I only had, maybe 20 to 30 stitches in a day. I was pretty burnt out on just everything. So for the whole month, I did 14,719 stitches. I worked on 14 projects total. For the latter half of the month, I worked on 7 projects. 3 of them were new starts. But there is an asterisk or a caveat to that. I participated in a 12x12 on New Year's Eve, which is where you either work on or start 12 projects and try to get them done by midnight. I did start 12 new projects then, as well as, so I think I'd mentioned before, I was hoping to only do 25 starts in 2025, but there were a whole bunch of projects that were, a bit smaller. And for me, since I do have some full coverage, small is anything below 10,000 stitches for me. Some smaller projects that I really just wanted to get started and get out of the way, and I didn't want them to necessarily count against my 2020 or 25 counts or starts. So I may have started a whole slew of things at the very tail end of December. Because I'll be doing my end of year project parade, I will not be featuring those in this particular video, but they will be showing up there along with my 12x12. This will only include the 3 new starts that I did in the lead up to New Year's and the last couple of days of the month. So to hop into those in alphabetical order, I usually do, just because it's a little bit easier for me to keep track of them that way. The first project we have is, I did more on All Hallows Bat. This pattern is by the Witchy Stitcher. This fabric is 18 count Dark and Stormy by Witch's Garden Crafts. I'm doing it mostly with the called for, with some minor substitutions based on what I had in stash. I've mentioned this before, and I'll probably mention it a million times again, but I love this project a lot. I'm really enjoying working on it. However, I can only do a little bit at a time just because this weave is pretty tight on the fabric. And I am doing more strands, at least in the black, than I would usually do, just to get the coverage really, really heavy. So my hands tire out pretty quickly if I work on it for too long at once. But I did get this entire corner done, worked my way over here. My goal next time will be to try to get at least over to the other corner so I can start working my way down on this side. Yeah, that's about it for this one. One of my new starts was a very small project. It was I think a freebie by the Wishing Thorn. It is called Boo. It is very cute. Turning it upside down. Okay. I'm doing this on 20 Count Dusk by Fiber on a Whim. The pumpkin has a deceptively large number of stitches, but it's relatively small. This whole bit here is a border with little skulls in it. There will be a raven. But this is the full size of it. Like it's even with my abnormally small hands, it is pretty small. I was able to get quite a bit done during a Zoom with a few stitchy friends, so that was really nice that we were able to do that. I worked a bit more on my restart for Dance la Bibliotheque. Just kind of working a little bit more on the diagonals here. This artwork is by Auguste Toulmouche. The pattern is by Diana70 on Etsy. Earlier in this month, I restarted it on this cream 22 count. So I was just kind of working more on that diagonal there. Then we have more progress on Dark Golden Delicious. This is by the Artsy Housewife. There are two versions, a lighter and a darker variation. I might eventually do this in the light as well because it does look really, really pretty. But I also love it like this. I'm doing this on 18 Count Bedrock by Bestitch Me with mostly fancy flosses, 1/1. In the latter half of this month, I added about 1,000 more stitches. So I worked on this quite a bit this month, all in all. This was one of the days where I just got just a tiny bit of stitching done, just to say that I'd stitched that day, which is just a personal goal of mine, is to do at least some stitches a day, even if, like I said, this month there were several times when that was barely any. Then I genuinely had thought I had already started this. I thought it was a restart initially, but it is not. I started a Halloween sampler by NARAXStitchDesigns. I'm doing it on 20 Count Frankenstein by Bestitch Me. The floss is Toasted Marshmallow by Night Stalker's Calling. I think the original pattern had maybe 3 or 4 colors. I'm really, really enjoying the idea that I have for this one. We'll see how well the full execution turns out, but I love this whole vibe. Like, this is a beautiful fabric, but it needs very specific patterns. And this one just, I think, will work out really nicely. Then we've got a Ouija board, which is a pattern by Raven Coven. I always do that. Raven Coven. I'm doing this, I believe, on a misdyed fabric from Bestitch Me called Oops. And the floss is Onyx by Weeks Dye Works. I came in and did more to kind of finish up this little part of the frame and came up to start working on this bit here. There's a skull here and one down in this bottom corner. I'm kind of working my way toward. Although I think I might save them for last because I love them. They might be little treats to myself. So I might come in and do more of the alphabet, or there's a cloud and some rays of sunshine there that I might do. This is a very weirdly meditative pattern considering it's a Ouija board, but you know, it works. And then lastly, I started and got some decent progress considering. I started on Pandemic by Long Dog Samplers. I'm doing this in a Silks for You PR 132. It's a really subtle, consistent variation, like just throughout each strand of thread or floss. It's very interesting, and it works. You don't have to try to cut it any specific way. It just works really nicely. I am currently working to try to kind of section off this portion of this motif to do it first, and then I'll work on another section And that's kind of how I'm going to tackle this because it's such a big pattern. I'm doing this on a 22 count white hardanger, just keeping it really simple. I'm finding I really enjoy 22 count. It's a nice bridge between 20 count versus 25 for me. Yeah, and that's it for projects. I really didn't work on a ton this month. I mean, I did and I didn't all at the same time. To kind of look over the part of the year where I was tracking my progress, I started tracking my stitching counts in August. And from August through December, I stitched a little over 80,000 stitches, which is way more than I would have expected, averaging about 16,500 stitches a month. I haven't gone through and done the work to find out how many projects total, how many new starts, how many finishes, etc. I might try to have that by mid-month, but I'm making zero promises. It's more just interesting for me to kind of look back on and reflect on anyway. My plans for this month, like I said, I'd like to try to get the whip parade done soon. Although, full disclosure, I did try to film it once and I wasn't happy with how it went. So I will be refilming it. On the plus side, that has the benefit of it being able to include the 12 by 12s that I did. And I think there were one or two other kind of frantic late month starts that I was working on that hadn't been started by that point. So this will be able to include all of those. And I am currently allowing myself, quote unquote, about 2 starts a month. That'll get me to right about my 25 that I'm hoping to have. I have already started one of those, full disclosure. And I know exactly what my other one will be. But I do think I'll be able to keep to just those, hopefully, fingers crossed. When I attempted to go through the whip parade the first time, I was able to clean up my notes on my project somewhat, though there are still a few bits of missing information. But when I did that, I went through and I categorized all of my projects based on the number of stitches when I knew them. There's only a handful of paper patterns, so it's pretty easy to do. So I have quite a few that are below 5,000 stitches. So I'm hoping that if I work on any of those fairly consistently, that it won't take me super long to get done with them, right? So typically my goblin ADHD brain has me working on 2 to 3 projects a night regardless. Maybe only 150, 200 stitches each, but I'm still working pretty consistently on 2 to 3 projects like that. If at least one of those is one of these smaller patterns, I think that would help a lot toward actually getting things done. So I'm going to try. I still have a ton of options with that. I think, yeah, okay, I have, let's see. I have 38 patterns that are under 5,000 stitches, or 38 projects. So that's a ton of options. Like even my ADHD brain will be able to pick one of those to work on each day, I think. I don't think that'll be too big of an issue. And even if I look at medium-sized projects, which is, I think, 5 to 20,000 stitches, there's 47 of those. So I have a lot of them that are doable. It's definitely possible to finish them, as long as I actually put consistent progress into any of them. So that's my goal for this calendar year. Last year, and I'll mention this in my whip parade as well, but last year when I really started getting into stitching and all of that, I only had 2 whips at the time. As of the beginning of this month, I currently have 105. So I've definitely gone overboard, gone a little bit crazy. So this is going to hopefully be the year where I really kind of work my way through a bunch of those and actually get them finished. In terms of shoutouts and gratitude, I sadly, because again, I was just so burnt out and just head empty the entire latter half of this month, I didn't really get a chance to watch any new Flosstubes. I have a whole bunch saved, like they're ready to, they're on a playlist ready to go for when I do feel like I have the mental capacity for it, but I'm just not quite there at the moment. So hopefully at my next video I'll have some good recommendations there. I do have just a couple of quick facts this time around. I'm going to keep it pretty short. The first is that fingerprints are not nearly as unique as we used to think they were, and as a lot of like true crime media wants to claim, like mostly on TV shows. They're the kind of the biggest culprit of that still. To the point where in a lot of actual like modern legal situations, they aren't really utilized that much anymore for evidence, or they're not the sole way of capturing evidence and kind of laying blame on people. Usually because of flaws inherent in both data collection and review, to the point where experts can even review the same prints multiple times and they'll get different conclusions and different thoughts on who they belong to. Another quick fact is more of like kind of a debunking of a myth. While too much sugar isn't good for you, the same way too much of anything isn't good for you, it is a myth that it alone leads to hyperactivity in children. It can lead to moments of hyperbehavior and energy, but the study that a lot of people cite when pointing out the dangers of sugar in a child's diet only followed one child whose behavior improved after cutting sugar from their diet. So that's one study with one single child that took place in the 70s. So this is more just kind of a heads up of looking at the source for information, because this gets touted constantly. As with anything, moderate what you're doing. Yes, some people are going to be prone to things more than others, but big sweeping statements like that are rarely true, and they're usually taken out of context. There's so many times where you actually look at the source of the study and the number of people studied was really, like, the sample size was incredibly small, or you do deeper digging and find out that, like, the whole thing with drinking milk will make your bones stronger. It doesn't. That study was funded by like the American Dairy Association or something like that. So you really need to dig into things if any of the information seems a little bit too good to be true, or seems to make big, bold claims. Other than that, I just have a couple more things for this video. It's going to be a pretty short one this time. I did do a tarot card pull, and I've covered it up. There it is. And this is my same Rider-Waite deck that I usually have. This time I was thinking about, just the next couple of weeks, the start of here in January, and I drew the Page of Swords. This can often refer to an idea that you're passionate about, a project that you're really excited about or eager about. You can't wait to share the progress with somebody, or you're just really eager to make progress. Usually when it appears in a reading, it signifies communication, sharing of ideas, brainstorming, really working things out with other people specifically to get more information and kind of group sourcing ideas. It's time to be open and talk about them. It's a very constructive time for that, so don't hold it in. Talk about your passions, your interests, your things that you're excited about. It could go very, very well for you. And then just some just a couple of recommendations. So 2 of these are technically outdated now. I completely forgot about a couple other Christmas movies that I do enjoy, other than just Mixed Nuts or ones like Violent Night, which are very on brand for me, but not to everyone's tastes. And those 2 are The Holiday, and that has, I know I should have written down the people who are in it. Jude Law, Kate Winslet, Cameron Diaz, and Jack Black. It's very cute, very sweet. And then Last Holiday with Queen Latifah. Absolutely delightful, amazing, 10 out of 10. LL Cool J just is it shouldn't work, but it does. It works so well. It works so well. Um, and then just a general movie recommendation, because January is such a cold, bleak time of winter, it's a very isolating feeling. I'm going to recommend The Witch, or The Vivitch, as it is jokingly called. I've referenced it a few times. I have several patterns that are related to it. It is a weird, dark, tense movie, and I love it desperately. Desperately. But that's it. That's all we have for this month. It's going to be a quicker thing to wrap up 2024. Thank you very, very much for being here. I hope if you are new that you found something that interests you enough to stick around. I hope that everyone's January goes well. And like I said, I hope to have my Wit Parade up in the next few days, hopefully before another week is up. Just kind of depends on how long the editing takes me. My first attempt at doing it was about 2 hours, and I thought I was booking it through that. So we'll see how this one goes. My next video in general for the first part of first part of January will probably be done on either the 15th, just because this month is a little wonky, or the 19th, which is that Sunday, a little bit after. Try to remember to get enough water, stay safe, focus on what makes you happy, and I'll see you next time. Bye.